Hello students, good afternoon. Welcome to Geography Optional Orientation Session. So, I think people who are attending this optional orientation might be having various concerns and various doubts inside you. And you are here in order to understand the geography optional briefly, and also you might be having certain doubts, or you might be having doubts regarding the sources. Every single aspect with respect to geography optional would be covered in this orientation. So let me introduce myself. I am Maulika Sharath. I have been teaching UPSC aspirants from last 5 years, and I'm a master's degree graduate in geography, and trying to pursue a PhD in earth sciences as well in future. And coming to my optional experience, I have taught various people in the last 2-3 years with respect to optional. From last 5 years, I have been guiding UPSC aspirants, but with respect to optional, from the last 2-3 years, I have been guiding students. So I think I must say I'm the oldest student of geography, rather than telling myself I'm a guide or mentor of geography. I would feel I'm the oldest student of geography, and I think I'll be the best guide for the geography optional as well. Fine. Now, coming to today's orientation, here I have an agenda of discussing what are all the advantages of taking geography optional first. See, end of the day, when it comes to UPSC, you're not here to do master's degree, or you're not here to consume the subject to its greater extent. We are here to score better. We are here to score a good rank and to settle into an IAS or IPS or whatever services that you actually wish. Now, coming to geography optional, now in this session, we will discuss how taking geography optional would be of a greater advantage when it comes to UPSC score. And I would say geography is a score multiplier. Okay. Now let us discuss about the aspects related to geography first, so then you will slowly understand. I hope you all are aware of the exam pattern of UPSC. We will be having prelims, the two papers of prelims. One would be GS and the other would be CSAT. Now within GS, geography forms a major part. In fact, last year, there were 23 questions coming from optional in your, coming from geography paper in your general studies. Okay. So 23 questions were asked, and slowly, if you observe, the importance of geography is being increasing. I'll tell you why. Because geography is not that subject which only talks about or which only discusses about Earth. It is a multiple disciplinary subject. If we go through the syllabus of geography, you'll get to know about it. Now, coming to the mains part of UPSC, we have 7 papers of mains. In that, you have general studies paper 1, in which geography forms the major part. So out of 250 marks in your GS1, you have 100 marks coming from geography. That was the one big advantage that you have. In fact, if you consider the topper scores, okay, throughout all the GS papers, if you see 1, 2, and 3, and 4, they actually need some 100 plus score in each of the GS papers in order to score highest ranks. So if you consider GS paper 1, geography would be of a greater advantage, and being an optional student, 100 marks will be in your hands, and sometimes it goes till 115 marks as well in some years. But on an average, minimum of 100 marks would be in your hands if geography optional was taken. Okay. Then another important paper where generally people lack scoring better is your GS3. In GS3, if you see, you have economic development. Within that, you will focus upon agriculture, which is again something which overlaps with geography. Then you have biodiversity, environment, and subjects, which is again a part of geography. Okay, it is having the closest connections with geography. It means in GS paper 3 as well, around 75 marks, or you can say 75 to 90 marks from GS3 will be in your hands if geography optional was taken. Then, apart from GS1 and 3, essay paper, which is considered to be the scoring paper, there as well, geography's role is significant. Because if you consider the essay paper, if you are all aware of it, because you people are attending an optional orientation, I hope you all are aware of at least the content of GS, right? So in the essay paper, you will be having 8 important themes. That's what generally considered. Like the environment is one theme, international relations is one theme, health, women. Okay, so in the philosophical essays, if you if you keep them apart, coming to the essays which are concept oriented, theme based essays, there as well, geography will give you a multi-dimensional perspective. Like taking geography optional will give you a multi-dimensional perspective. So in terms of scoring, if you talk, I must say geography is one subject wherein you can have an advantage of scoring better in your GS paper. And apart from that, it's a spatial science, right? So you will have huge lot of scope of doing diagrams, doing maps, and presenting your answer in a more examiner friendly way, so that the scores will be increasing. Now coming to this mains pattern, you have GS1, which is your advantage, GS3 and essay. In all these papers, geographies, optional geography students generally perform better. If you get back to the toppers of geography optional, there also you can understand the relevance of geography. So that was a crisp introduction of the subject geography. Now coming to optional, how do you select an optional? Generally, any UPSC aspirant will have certain interest towards or certain orientation towards certain subjects. For example, people might be interested in political science, people might be interested about learning anthropology, or they might be interested in public administration and all. If interest was present, then fine, you can take that particular optional. But if you are juggling between the optionals and couldn't able to decide which optional has to be considered, I would say this is the flow that you have to take. Number one, you have to understand the crisp content of that subject, or if you understand the syllabus of that particular optional, you'll get an idea. Based on that, you can develop interest towards an optional, right? If you know the syllabus better, then itself you can understand whether I can take this optional or not. So interest has to be there. Then proper guidance, because answer writing is something which plays a major role, which we all knew. So guidance is another important thing for any given optional. And then relevance to GS papers. As I've discussed earlier, that how much is the overlap that you're having with respect to GS when you are considering an optional. Okay, sometimes you might have a greater advantage like you have in your geography. Sometimes you may not, but still, if interest and guidance were something which are dominating, then obviously you can choose that particular optional. Now, let us discuss all these particular aspects in terms of geography. Firstly, when it comes to the subject geography, geo means earth and graphy means description. Now, let me ask you this question. When I say the word geography, what you people all think about? You might think about the climate studies. You might think about the study of landforms, how mountains formed, how plateaus were formed, plains were formed, why river is actually shaping the land, how the river is actually depositing, eroding, all such stuff. Or you might think of talking about climate, cyclones, or talking about oceans and all. It is not just the physical part, or you might think about all these particular things, right? But geography is not just about that physical aspects of the earth. So generally from our childhood, we keep on, imagining this thing that geography is all about the physical elements of the earth. What are the physical elements? The land, the water, the air, and the life. But let me tell you, that is only one wing of geography. You have another phase of geography which is called as human geography, wherein you will discuss more about human nature relation, the relationship which is very much required for an administrator. The human nature relationship includes where can an industries can be placed, where can there be in agriculture, where can you have a proper, transportation and communication setup. Everything is interlinked to geography. If you want to change a particular aspect in a region, if you want to talk about the culture of a region, there also geography comes apart. If you talk about human evolution, there also geography becomes a part. It means if you are talking about the historical evolution, for example, you might be aware of the Indus Valley civilization. You might be aware of the Egyptian civilization. If you look at keenly at that particular things, there is a geographical connectivity. Don't you think so? It means whenever there is a river area, there is a scope for the growth of civilization or culture. Why do you think all the oldest and ancient civilizations have grown only close to the river banks? That's geography. Then, coming to society, the Indian society subject which you are having in your GS paper 1. There you will be learning about various issues with respect to Indian society, the women issues, etc. There is a geographical connectivity to it. If I talk about economic development, the agricultural development or the industries, in fact the resources. Resources are the most important things for economic development, right? There also you have geography. So the other side of geography, which I say human geography, will talk about all the aspects related to the economic things, the political things, and many more. So both together, the physical part and human part is something which we learn in geography optional. It means, in a way, we are touching every single GS paper. All right. So it means, if you are considering the optional geography or if you are taking geography optional, you definitely have a multidimensional perspective wherein your GS answers get enriched. And being an optional student of geography, if you could able to interconnect the things and if you could able to make your answers multidimensional, your geography scores will also improve. Now, coming to this particular part of geography, this is how the interest in geography gets developed. When you are looking at geography, not just the physical elements, you must talk about the human elements as well. Then, both the things, if you are connecting India as an example, talking about physical aspect, connecting to India, talking about the industries, talking about, connecting it to India. If you could able to draw all the examples from Indian subcontinent, there itself, it becomes a complete picture, and that helps you to score better in any given paper of GS or in your optional. So that is what is the interesting aspect of geography. Then apart from, next to that, the guidance. Now coming to the geography optional sessions in this academy, I would provide the classes in such a way that there would be conceptual clarity and there will be material that would be provided. And of course, test series are also a part of it. There would be daily answer writing sessions. There would be assignments which will try to improve your optional things. Then, already we have talked about the relevance in GS papers. I told you GS1 and GS3 are very much connected. The content of GS1 and 3 are very much connected to geography optional. Then of course, it's a scoring paper because I'll show you some toppers who have scored highest in geography. Okay, then next is what geography optional is all about. By the time you are attending this orientation session, I think you all are aware of geography optional syllabus. And you also have heard about this particular myth, I must say, that geography optional is a vague one, a lengthy one, and it is a very tough task to remember every single, terms that were associated. But let me tell you, that's all a myth, and I would break it in a few seconds. Now, if you see, this is what is the paper 1 and paper 2 content of geography. So, like any other optional, you have two papers of geography. In paper 1, we will have 2 sections. One is physical geography. As I told you, it is all about the physical elements of Earth. Geomorphology. Geomorphology means morphology, or morph is something which is related to structure. Geomorphology means studying the structure part of the Earth. It means here you will focus upon everything that is related to landforms. So we have the first degree, second degree and third degree landforms like the mountains, plateaus, plains and some more exogenetic landforms and all. So here in geomorphology, you will try and understand how continents have formed, how landforms over the continents have formed and all the aspects associated with it. Then next is climatology. That means everything about atmosphere. That means why in the month of June to September there is monsoon that arrives in India. Why do we have cyclones at a particular time? And how do you predict that particular cyclones? How cyclones are formed in the first case? Okay. Then how different climatic patterns we're having. For example, let me tell you, if you open Atlas and if you observe the western sides of the continent, observe western side of India, western side of Asia altogether, then western side of your Africa, North America, South America and all the western borders within tropical region, you will observe deserts. Have you observed this pattern any time? Have you questioned yourself that why do we have deserts only on the western sides of the continent and that too in the tropical region? Is there any correlation between that particular pattern of deserts with the climate of the earth? Yes, of course it was there. So, under climatology, you will study various patterns in the world climate, various aspects related to the wind systems, various aspects related to the rainfall, precipitation, temperature variations, and everything that is surrounding you. So that is all about climatology. Then in oceanography, we will talk about hydrosphere in detail. Same as something which you see on the landform, you have mountains, you have volcanic mountains, you have sea mounts, etc. under your ocean as well. So under oceanography, you will be studying the bottom topography of the ocean, the coral reefs, which you are all aware of, which you study in environment. You will talk about marine resources and every other thing with respect to waters or with respect to hydrosphere in your oceanography. Then we have another important thing, that is biogeography, which talks everything about life, everything about soil. If you observe, if you belong to the coastal Andhra region, okay, close to Godavari Krishna Delta, you will have alluvial soils. If you go to Rayalaseema, red soil is something which is prominent. If you go to Maharashtra, black soil is prominent. Why do you think you have different types of soils in different regions? What is the reason behind soil formation? And of course, you are all aware, right? Based on soil itself, the crops that can be grown will be decided. So now do you understand how agriculture, soil and the geographical conditions are interconnected? So that's why I say this is the subject which is having greater relevance with all the GS papers. Now, coming to biogeography, here we'll talk about the soil profile, the genesis of soil, how different soils were classified and how the soils were distributed across the world. That's what is the thing that we discuss in biogeography. Now, if you consider all the 4 chapters, these are all something which you compulsory study in your GS paper 1. Because in GS paper 1 geography, physical geography is something which is having a greater weightage. So there is nothing different that you learn in optional. In fact, you will learn almost the same thing that you learn in your GS paper. Now, what is something which is different in your optional paper is that for every single chapter that you have here, there are some geographers and there are some geographical theories that were there. For example, in the geomorphology, you will be studying the geomorphic cycles, There is something called denudation chronology. There is something called channel morphology. There are certain theories that were associated. It means, I must say, 60% of geomorphology is same as your GS, whereas 40% is something which you learn little extra in your optional. Then, climatology. Climatology also, 60% of climatology will be something which you study in GS itself. Okay, it is completely overlapping with the GS. Only 1-2 theories were there. Thornthwaite and Trivarta karke, there are 2 theories. That theories are little extra in your optional. Then oceanography, of course, apart from hypsograph curve, there is something called hypsograph curve, which is nothing but the bottom topography of the ocean. You will draw the bottom topography of Indian Ocean, Atlantic and Pacific, which is just a diagram itself, which is something specific to optional. And these days, when UPSC is becoming more and more dynamic, I must say in GS also there are chances of getting questions related to bottom topography as well. So it means oceanography is completely a stuff which you do in GS itself. Okay, so it is completely overlapping with GS. Then biogeography as well. Biogeography includes all the vegetation, flora, fauna, fungi, all these things and all. It means what? Biogeography is an amalgamation of some aspects related to your environment as well. Okay, in your environment, which is a major part of your prelims, you will get 20 plus questions of environment, right? So, environment stuff will be there in your biogeography and also things related to soil. It means oceanography and biogeography is something which you completely need to learn for your GS as well. So, what extra do we learn in optional is that only that 40% of theories that were there, because physical geography anyway is important. Okay. Then finally, environment geography. Environment geography is completely your subject environment which you do for prelims and for your GS3. So that is something which is covered here in the physical geography part. Then coming to section B of your paper 1, that is human geography. So here you will learn little more, or you need to keep little more efforts here, because this is something which is specific to optional paper itself. Now there is this chapter called Perspectives in Human Geography. So here in this chapter you will learn about how geography as a subject got evolved. I must say this is like a philosophical side of geography, and of course you can take advantage of this chapter as well when you are doing your essay. Okay, in essay, many aspects of perspectives in human geography can be used. For example, there is this small theory called determinism. Okay, this is one small theory of perspectives. Let me give you a crisp overview of it. The determinism theory says that environment is something which rules human, or you can say nature is supreme entity. So what it says is that if you belong to a certain region, your features, your activities, your food styles will be decided by nature. Don't you think it is right? Of course it is right. You consider the people belonging to Rayalaseema region, ragi is the staple food. Why do you think ragi sangati or ragi is staple food in Rayalaseema? Because Rayalaseema has red soil and it is a drought prone region. So of course, crops like ragi can be grown there. Now don't you think nature is deciding what human has to follow? You go to Godavari Krishna region, rice is staple food, because of course it's a fertile region, irrigation facilities were there, rice is a water intense crop, and of course you will have rice as a staple food. You go to North India, wheat is a staple food. Why do you think it is wheat? Because wheat requires winter rainfall. And it is something which is, observed in northern India itself. Okay. So in winter season, there should be showers, there should be rainfall. Winter rainfall is a very crucial aspect for wheat cultivation. Now don't you think nature is deciding how human has to act? So that is the philosophy of determinism. Then there is another school talking about possibilism. It says that no, nature is not something which is supreme. It is human, you can have possibilities. So now if you see, you have Siachen kind of glaciers, You have Antarctica kind of regions. There also we are having some research stations. We are having military camps, etc. in the higher altitudes in Himalayan regions, in the hardest deserts and all. So it means what? Although nature is providing you challenges, human tries to give possibilities. So some people argue that it is possibilism which works, and some people argue that no, nature is supreme and determinism works. So such kind of philosophical side of geography is being taught in your perspectives in human geography. If you dive deeper, there are many other aspects, and it's an interesting chapter, I must say. And it, of course, a scoring one as well. The next is economic geography. So under economic geography, you'll talk about agriculture, you'll talk about various agro-climatic zones, you'll talk about industries, transportation, communication, trade, and all the other stuff. And there are also certain theories associated with it for economic geography. For example, in order to have an industry at a certain place, there are some factors that need to, support. For example, if I want to have a textile industry, say cotton textile industry, the textile industry must be located in such an area where the climate is little drier. You should not have moist or wet climate for cotton cultivation. And secondly, there should be black soil which is available. All right? It means what? Region which is rich with black soil, region which is having drier conditions will have more scope of textile industries. Of course, that is a geographical connection. So under economic geography, you will learn about various industries, iron and steel industry, aluminium, textile, whatever the industry that drives the economy, you will learn about every single industry, and you will try to connect it with the geography of that particular region. So that is what economic geography is all about. And here the advantage is that if you could able to perform well in economic geography, this helps you score better in your GS3. Because in GS3 you have economic development, agriculture and all, right? So that's what is an advantage. Then population and settlements. This is also a very generic chapter where you learn about population. For example, a simple question if I post, where do you think, where do you think you will find more and more population? Is it close to the river banks or is it close to the desert areas? If somebody posts a question of this sort, obviously you say that population would be more in the areas where there were availability of water, resources and all. And if it is a desert kind of areas, of course, the population would be less. So we will understand in the world and we will understand the patterns that were seen in the world with respect to population, migration. For example, why do you think countries like India and China are most populated? There is a geographical reason behind it. And there are also certain theories which talks about how population growth, if it is not in par with the crop production and all, there would be a crisis kind of situation. There was one theory with respect to that. So in population and settlements, you learn about all the things related to that. Population, migration, how the population is distributed, the demographic aspects, all those things will be learned in this population and settlement geography. Then comes regional planning. This is one of the important chapters, not only with respect to optional, but also when you become an administrator, you are expected to have a proper, conditions in a city. So regional planning, all those aspects will be taught to you as an administrator soon after you getting into the service. So in your optional, you have an advantage of learning about regional planning in your optional chapter itself. So under regional planning, you will talk about why certain regions are, backward in nature. Why certain regions can have the potential to develop faster. Why certain regions within no span, they will develop like anything, and few regions will be held back. So those regional imbalances, disparities, all that things will be learnt under regional planning. Then there is a chapter, models, theories and laws of human geography. So this chapter is not something which you learn separately. You have all the theories related to perspectives, economic geography, population and regional planning under this particular chapter. So whenever we are doing the 4 chapters of section B, there itself models, theories and laws will be covered. For example, there are theories related to agriculture. There are theories related to industries, where an industry should be located. There are theories with respect to economic planning, economic growth. There are theories with respect to population settlements. All that stuff that you learn in the 4 chapters is something which is represented in chapter 5. This is nothing separate. It is again a part of the 4 chapters itself. So this is the physical and human geography chapters that you have in your optional paper 1. Now, like any other optional, geography optional is also having a theory side of it and an application side of it. So paper 1 is called as Principles of Geography. So it means you learn about all the theories that were related to physical and human geography. Now what about paper 2? It is simply the application of all the theories that you have read. So it means if you, let me show you here. I told you geomorphology is everything that you study about land. Now see the first chapter of your paper 2. Paper 2 is basically Indian geography. Paper 2 is called as Indian geography paper. And paper 1 is the Principles of Geography paper. Now just observe the first chapter of paper 2. That is physical settings. And if you observe the first chapter of paper 1, it is geomorphology. It means whenever you are studying everything about landforms in geomorphology, you will try connecting examples with India. For example, there is a theory called plate tectonics, which explains about why mountains are present in the continental margins. You consider the Rockies of North America, it would be present on the western side. The Himalayas of India, north side, that means in the boundary. Then the Andes Mountains in South America, again in the continental margin. So plate tectonic theory says that it is because of the continent-continent convergence the mountains were forming. So the theory regarding the formation of landform is read here. Whereas the practical application is seen in your paper 2. It means what? You will study in detail about the Himalayan orogeny, the Trans-Himalayas, the Greater Himalayas, Lesser Himalayas, Shivaliks and every other stuff. It means what? The theory is learnt in paper 2 and the application is the example is your India. So if you could able to connect paper 1 and paper 2, parallelly you are covering 2 chapters at one go. Don't you think so? Yes, that can be done in your geography optional. Now, if you learn about climatology, that is about atmosphere, there you learn about Indian monsoon, India's climate specifically. For example, in India also, on the western side you have Thar desert, on the northern side you have Tundra climate, the Himalayan belt, okay. Then if you go to Meghalaya region, it is the wettest region, Cherrapunji you might be aware of. If you come to southern part of India, it is dry region, right? So in India itself, there are different climatic conditions. So learning theories of climatology here and applying that to climate in India or monsoon or Indian climatic classification, monsoon in India, different aspects related to climate in India will be an example. So again, when you learn theory, the example will be from the physical settings or within physical settings, you will learn everything about India's physical aspect like land part of India, atmosphere in India or the climate in India, water bodies in India and also the bio or India. It means the trees, the soils, etc. and all. So when we were dealing all the 5 chapters, examples will be from your paper 2, chapter 1, that is physical settings. So the first chapter of your paper 2 is nothing different. It is just an example of theories that you have learnt in the paper 1 5 chapters. Then the second chapter, if you see, it is about resources in Indian subcontinent. See, paper 2 completely is all about India. Resources in India means all sort of resources, land resources, water resources, mineral resources, etc. When you do economic geography of paper 2, economic geography means you learn about agriculture, industries and all. Resources is also a part of it. So it means what? Again, theory will be learnt in economic geography and application is your paper 2 or example is your paper 2. Then come to agriculture. Of course, it is directly connected to economic geography. Then industries, again directly connected. Transportation and communication, that is again directly connected. So it means doing one chapter of economic geography in your paper 1, section B, will have examples taking from chapter 2, 3, 4 and 5 from your paper 2. So if you could do parallelly the economic geography and then the chapter 2, 3, 4, 5 from your paper 2, then it will become a holistic preparation. And of course, you need not to search for an extra example. India itself will become a better example for you. Okay? And of course, this will give you an advantage, right? Reading one stuff and applying it in all the other chapters, and that will fetch more marks as well. Your answer would look more multidimensional. All right. Then look at this particular chapter, the cultural setting in India. As I told you, everything in that you see around is always connected to geography. The food that you eat, the festivals that you perform, or the traditions that you have, the culture that you have, everything is connected to geography of that region. Most of the times in my classes, I do mention this example. Do you ever knew that in Meghalaya, there is still a matrilineal culture that is followed? Here, in the other parts of the world, mostly it is patrilineal society, right? The surname of father would be taken. Whereas in Meghalaya, there is still matrilineal, culture is being followed. Why do you think in Meghalaya, there is matrilineal society that is present? Because geographically, it is a little isolated region. Meghalaya, if you observe the map of Meghalaya, it contains 3 major hills, Garo, Kashi and Jaintia. Okay, it's a hilly region. It is again separated from the mainstream world. And still the older ancient cultures are followed in that particular region. Not only in Meghalaya, if you consider any tribal culture in that case, they still follow some traditional aspects which were being followed from thousands and thousands of years. So it means what? Geography of that region is influencing the culture. Don't you think so? Have you ever seen the festival New Year is celebrated at different points of time in different regions? For example, in Andhra, it is Ugadi. If you go to northern India, it is celebrated in a different time span, right? So why do you think we have different New Years in different states? That is because of the sun's movement. When sun's movement is shifting towards each and every latitude, according to the movement of the sun, we generally perform certain festivals. The Makar Shankranti that you perform, the harvest festival. You have Ugadi. Every single festival is associated with the movement of the sun. So it means what? The culture is having a connectivity with geography. Are you understanding, everyone? So under cultural setting, which is again an intrusive part of your population and settlement geography, you will learn about various aspects related to language, race, religion, and various aspects, and you connect it with geography. That's what the cultural setting chapter is all about. Then again, settlements. Of course, it is directly connected to this population and settlements chapter. There are certain patterns of settlements that were followed in each and every region. So that's what we actually learn in this settlement geography. And of course, India would be the focus area here. Then if you do regional planning, here in this chapter 8 of your paper 2, we learn about regional development and planning, how different regions can be developed. So there always a geographical side in order to understand and develop a particular region. Why do you think in a given state a certain area is chosen as a capital? Why can't it be a other city? For example, if you see Andhra Pradesh, we have chosen, Amaravati as a capital region. Why do you think Amaravati is considered? Do you think it is only distance from every part of the state, which is a factor that is responsible for choosing a capital? No. The geographical conditions are a region. Why Hyderabad is being a capital for centuries? Why Delhi is chosen as a capital? Why Calcutta? Why Ahmedabad and Gujarat, Gandhinagar region? Why Mumbai? Why Chennai? All those questions can be answered if you know the aspects related to regional planning and development. So under regional planning and development, you'll understand what are all the potentials that a region can have in order to develop. Okay? So it means when you become an administrator, if you could able to apply the theories of this particular chapter, you can do wonders. So anyway, coming to regional planning, you will learn theories here and the application part will be your paper 2. Then the last is political aspects and contemporary issues. So here you will see some aspects related to political geography. So there are some geopolitical, geopolitical basis for division of states in the country, the state reorganization and all. And we also learn about various political aspects around the world. That means the content which you learn in your international relations and polity, some stuff of it will be present in the political aspects chapter of India, okay, in your paper 2. And contemporary issues is completely current affairs that is associated with geography. It means it is nothing, big or nothing different from your current affairs preparation that you do for your GS mains and prelims. It is the same stuff, but you will look through the lens of geography. That is the only thing that you need to, understand here. Now, if I, conclude the whole syllabus part, if you observe people, don't you think that everything that you prepare for GS is something that is reflected in the optional geography syllabus? Yes, it is reflected. And that's what is the reason people feel that the syllabus of optional is vague. The syllabus of optional is lengthy. And geography, oh my God, it's a tough task to pick. No. Please remember, whatever hard work that you do for GS, the same thing is required for optional geography as well. Now, if you ask me, what is the percentage of overlap that you have when it comes to geography optional, I must say 40 to 45% of geography content would be there in your GS papers altogether, GS 1, 2 and essay. If you consider GS 1, of course, it's a direct geography subject that you will be learning. In GS3, the economic geography part, the environment part, because you have a chapter called environment geography here, and there is another subject called disaster management. That is also an intrusive part of your geography itself. In the environment geography itself, we'll talk about various disaster management plans and all. So, in a way, there is a 40 to 45% overlap with your GS syllabus. So that's the reason I can say this is a scoring subject. This is a multidimensional subject. This is a spatial science, and that's the reason you have an advantage of scoring better using diagrams and maps. And as I told you, with respect to paper 2, there is no big effort that is required. Simply when you start doing paper 1 theory and parallelly if you could able to understand the examples from paper 2, that itself will make you do all the preparation that is required for your optional. Alright? Okay. Now, okay, fine, the chapters were clear, the overlap is clear, and the brief aspects related to chapters were clear. Now, what about the question paper pattern of geography? So, like any other optional paper, if you open UPSC optional question paper, the previous year question paper of geography, paper 1 and paper 2, you have 8 questions given in 2 sections. Okay, there would be section A in which 4 questions would be there. Of course, there would be subparts as well. 1 means 1A, 1B, 1C, like that. There will be 5 subparts, okay, only in first question. Then there would be 3 subparts for other questions like 15 and 10 markers karke. Okay, then you have section B. Now, out of 8 questions, you need to answer 5, okay, and out of that, first question and fifth question are compulsory. Mandatorily, you have to attend these questions 1 and 5, and rest 3 you can choose from either of the sections, choosing 1 from each section. That's what is the instruction given in your UPSC paper. So now if you observe, generally, section A comes from the physical geography part, section B comes from human geography part. So in either of the sections, or if you consider the whole, you can say 9 chapters, because this is anyway included in the 4 chapters above. So here 5 and 4. Out of 9 chapters, if you could able to perform better in 5 of them or 6 of them, you will have all the chances to give a good optional attempt. Okay, I don't say that you can leave the other chapters, but the efforts I'm talking about. If you could able to give 90 to 80 to 90% of efforts in 5-6 chapters, and if you could able to do some 50% or the major important stuff in the other 3 chapters, that itself is sufficient to score better in geography optional. All right. Then coming to paper 2, again in paper 2, you will be having 4 questions in section A and 4 more in section B. But here an advantage is that the first question is a map based question. There would be 10 map points that would be given, and you need to plot them on a blank India outline map. So imagine how much time you can save if you could able to prepare a map based question better. And of course, that's a compulsory question. You don't have a chance. You can't leave it. So it means what? Time management is also something which is possible in geography, because in every given answer, you can have a diagram, you can have a proper conclusion using some geographer's views or statements. So it means, although if you could able to keep a little efforts, making the frameworks, making some standard templates for certain concepts and all, and making some important diagrams with respect to every concept, that itself will fetch you more marks in your geography optional. You have a scope here to draw. You have a scope here to manage time, because instead of writing huge lot of stuff, one diagram itself will showcase everything that you feel, isn't it? So that scope is there more in your geography optional. So this is how the mains paper structure would be. So in your paper 2, map is very important thing. And of course, in the optional geography classes here, every day we will be learning 10 to 15 map points. Okay, so that itself is sufficient for you to nail this particular paper. Okay, so that is the syllabus plan of your geography. Now, in order to prove the statements that I have said right, I have brought this syllabus of UPSC. So here we have the prelim syllabus of UPSC, wherein this third line talks about India and world geography, physical, social and economic geography of India and world. Don't you think it is something which you already will cover in your paper 1 and paper 2 together? Yes. So your prelims preparation with respect to geography will be complete if you are taking optional geography. Then, I forgot highlighting this line, but observe this line. General issues on environment, ecology, biodiversity and climate change that do not require subject specialization. So this is a chapter, or this is the subject environment, which forms a major chunk in your prelims paper. If you consider last year's paper, there were around 23 questions of geography, and every year it is quite evident, because IFOS and civil services prelims, or IAS ka prelims, both are one and the same. right? So that's the reason in the prelims paper, environment is having little more weightage. That means around 15 to 20 questions will be coming from environment itself. Now together if you see, around 30 to 40 questions will be appearing directly from these two subjects, that is geography and your environment, and which is a very major part for you to clear prelims examination. Don't you think so? I have seen many students clearing prelims just because of their strength in environment and geography subjects. Okay? And these years, if you see the last 2-3 years of papers, the significance of geography is getting increasing. That's what is the observation. All right. So that is about the prelim stuff. Then, getting into the mains GS1, this is the syllabus of your mains GS geography. Okay. If you see there, the syllabus talks about physical features of world physical geography, salient features of world physical geography. That means all the 4 chapters of your paper 1 section A, that is geomorphology, climatology, oceanography and biogeography. That's what you need to learn. Then you have key natural resources across the world and including South Asia and Indian subcontinent, something which you cover in resources chapter of your paper 2, and of course we learn theories as well. Then factors responsible for location of primary, secondary and tertiary industries in various parts of the world. That is again the industries chapter of your paper 2. So any given way you have to read those chapters, but you don't know or you don't realize that this is something which you are reading till optional level. That's it. Then coming back to the third line, important geophysical phenomena like earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic activity, geographical features, their locational changes, all this particular stuff is the environment geography and the disaster that were associated with the geography aspects. That means what? In all the 3 lines, it is completely overlapping with the geography optional syllabus itself. Now, I'm so sorry for this weak visibility, but if you take GS paper 3, okay, I have highlighted the portion of GS paper 3 which overlaps with geography. Here we have the major crops, cropping patterns, irrigation system, transport, etc., which is a part of economic geography. Okay, so these 2 lines, in fact, this as well, food processing, related industries, etc., you will learn under economic geography. Then infrastructure, energy, ports, roads, airports, railways, this is also again something which you learn in paper 2 of your optional geography. Then in GS paper 3, you have the content related to environment, conservation, environment pollution, impact assessment, disaster and disaster management. This is completely from your geography itself. Okay? So I think now you will have a clarity that how the syllabus overlap that was there with respect to the optional geography. And I think you are clear with the brief explanation of syllabus as well. Now, let us talk about some toppers whose optional is geography. Last year, we have quite a good amount of people. I don't have a bigger space here, so I have included only those toppers who have scored the highest. There are many more as well. Of course, you must, we must agree that there are people who have scored less in geography and felt bad for choosing this optional. But please remember, the problem is not the subject. The problem is the strategy that you have taken for the preparation. The problem is the sources that you have followed. The problem is when you fail to interconnect the things, when you fail to establish interconnections within the chapters, there itself you will lack the scores. Okay? So that's what people have to realize here. Okay? Now in 2024, we have Vivek Garg, Banna Venkatesh, who is a very close friend of mine, Soumya Mishra. These all have scored around 280 plus in geography. Okay? Then we have Deepthi Rohala, whose rank is 39. And if you take Vivek Garg, Banna Venkatesh and all, Banna Venkatesh got a rank of 15, I guess. Okay? So it means what? There are toppers with geography optional. Okay? And if you really work on optional better, it also helps you for personality test as well. If you go back and check certain toppers interviews of geography, every single geography optional, optional aspirant says the same thing. Okay, that geography helped them to score better in GS1, 3, essay, and of course in the optional paper as well, provided efforts must be there. All right, so these are all the toppers. Every year, if you see consistently, there were people who are scoring better. In fact, more than 290 plus in geography. It means the myth that you cannot score better in geography have been faded now. Don't you think so? And it is quite doable. It is quite possible to score higher in geography optional. Okay? But you need templates. You need frameworks. You need smart preparation. You need preparation such a way that before you sit for an examination, you must have all the frameworks for the important contents that can be asked in the optional paper. Okay? So this is some stuff related to the toppers of geography. Now, what are all the major tools in order to score geography? In order to, if you choose geography as your optional, and if you really understand that it is having all the potential to score better, what are all the tools that were required? Let us discuss that now. Now coming to the tools for geography optional, the first important tool is the sources. You need to pick the sources rightly. You need to revise the sources multiple times. So right sources are the first important step for your success in this optional. So if you ask me about the standard sources of geography, firstly, of course, like everybody says, NCERTs of class 11th and 12th are compulsory. Straight from the NCERTs, there are instances where questions were framed. Okay, in fact, in prelims also. Okay, so NCERT, each and every line of class 11th, okay, each and every line of class 11th and 12th NCERT are quite important. Then the sources specifically with respect to optional, if you ask me, for physical geography, what most of the students, most of the toppers, my students follow is, number one, Rupa Made Simple. Okay, that is something which many toppers will follow. Okay, this is a book for physical geography and also human geography, that is economic and social geography. That is one important source. And for physical geography specifically, we have Savindra Singh textbook, Physical Geography by Savindra Singh. Okay, then that is for your paper 1. Whereas for paper 2, you have this bulky book called Cooler. Of course, even though the book is bulkier, if you could able to organize that book better, you can have the scope to revise them easily. So in the optional classes, that's what we will be learning. That's what is the guidance what I meant about. Okay, so you have Cooler. Of course, Mazid Hussain is also an important source. But personally, I would prefer these textbooks because if you keep the sources a little and if you are able to revise them better, that itself will fetch you more marks. That's what is the, thing that was proven by many toppers as well. So that is about the sources of geography optional. Then coming to the classes. How will be the lecture flow of geography, or how will be the classes conducted? What are all the advantages that you people get taking classes of geography optional here? Number one is the connectivity with respect to subjects. As I've explained you earlier, whenever you're doing theories of paper 1, parallelly we will cover paper 2 ka chapters. So there, number one, the student will have an advantage of connecting the things, the interconnectivity can be established. Number two, student have the practice of making good answers by using diagrams, flow charts and all. That's how my notes also looks like. And another advantage that I want to give in this classes is that I want to develop frameworks for every single content of geography. the frameworks which helps you to recall the content better, frameworks which helps you to quickly write 8 to 10 points in your optional answers, and the frameworks which helps you to recall every geographer's name whenever you start writing an answer. Are you getting it, everyone? For example, if there is a question related to tectonics, if there is a question related to continents, okay, you should recall the name of the plate tectonic theory that was given by Mackenzie, Parker, Morgan and all. You have to, talk about the Arthur Holmes and all. So such a kind of stuff, if there is a question asked in this way, these are all the thinkers associated. That's how the notes was prepared. The frameworks were prepared, templates were prepared. So in this classes, of course, the conceptual clarity would be present. Apart from that, it is also providing the frameworks and templates that is required to make your answers look better. So classes will be in that particular flow. You will read the theory of paper 1 and practical application or the chapters of paper 2 will be taken as example. And the lecture flow would be like that itself. Okay. Then next is the most important aspect, tests. We are also launching the tests for geography optional, wherein the tests will also be corrected in the same standards that you have in your UPSC. Of course, it would be strict, but here in the test, what the test helps you is that, number 1, it will help you to recall the content better, and number 2, in tests also, we will try to use the same templates and frameworks that we prepare for main UPSC examination. And in the answer sheets that were given, that is the solutions of the tests that were given, they also were designed according to the templates and frameworks that were discussed in the class. So, if you are attending the class and taking the test series, there will be a proper connectivity that can be established. And there is also a chance or a scope for you to recall things, revise things in a very better manner. So that's how the tests of geography optional were designed. Now, apart from that, there are 5 important promises that I want to make here with respect to optional geography. Number 1 is that your optional classes starts with the basics discussion. It means I'm not considering that you people were pros in general geography or your GS geography. All right. I consider that you are the aspirants who are not at all aware of geography and you are sitting here with all the blank mind, and we will start from the very scratch talking about the Earth's evolution, the latitudes, longitudes from that particular scratch, and we'll go till the optional syllabus. And please do not think that it would take huge lot of time. No, we can complete that in a given time span itself, in a lesser time. But the important thing is that we will start with the basics. Basics are very important in geography classes. And then conceptual clarity is something which is promised in these sessions. Conceptual clarity as in, for every given theory that you discuss in geography optional, there would be a visual example, a detailed explanation of that theory, and if that theory is having any, complex things, there will be a visual representation wherein student can have conceptual clarity better. Okay, so visual representation of some complex theories is an advantage in these classes. So conceptual clarity will be assured using visual representation. Then answer writing. As I told you, we will develop frameworks and templates. In fact, ready-made content to reflect in your answers. Okay, these days, these are becoming more, important for clearing UPSC, because UPSC is becoming more and more dynamic, more and more uncertain. So, obviously, a framework and a template is a very important aspect for scoring better. So, answer writing guidance will be provided, okay, along with the classes, and frameworks for every important content will be discussed, okay. So, that's another important promise. Then, maps and diagrams. Usually, in any optional classes, if you observe, although paper 2 is having a compulsory map-based question, the maps were in the hands of students in general. Okay, although faculty, have this, idea that maps are important, the time is not sufficient for them to discuss about maps and all. Only few classes will be conducted with respect to maps. But in the optional geography classes that we have here, every single day, last 20 minutes or 15 minutes will be dedicated only for maps. So, it helps you in your prelims, in your mains, in your optional as well, and to attend the compulsory question. So, that's another promise. And linkages with current affairs. As I told you, a separate chapter was dedicated in geography optional with respect to current affairs. That is contemporary issues. So, in these particular contemporary issues thing, you will connect every single current affair starting from international relations, internal security, economy, world, politics and all. You'll also talk about the current affairs associated with the physical geography content like the earthquakes, landslides, cyclones, etc. We also talk about some aspects related to the culture. We'll also discuss the contemporary issues related to climate change, environment, disasters, so what not. Whatever you study for your GS 123 with respect to current affairs will be covered in your optional paper itself. So the chapter contemporary issues will be dealt in the last, so that most of the current affairs gets covered in that particular chapter. So these are the 5 promises that I am making for this particular optional course. All right. So finally, what I want to say is that from mountains to monsoons, from people to patrons, we will discover UPSC through geography optional. So that's all about today's session, everyone. Thanks a lot for attending, and here's Maulika Sharath signing off.